Welcome to the School of Wedding Photography. I'm here today with Marlies Hartmann, an award-winning photographer based in Los Angeles, California. Marlies is a speaker at Mystic Seminars in 2019. She's also speaking at the Canon Learning Centre later this year, and she's an ambassador for the Knot in 2018. And all of this is despite getting her first professional camera in 2015 and being her second wedding season. Welcome, Marlies.
Hi, Nicholas. How are you?
I'm great. How have you achieved so much so quickly?
Oh my gosh, that's a big question to start. Okay. So here's the thing. So I got a camera in 2015. Prior to that, I was taking iPhone photos for my food blog that I was doing. So I like to joke that I was swinging with two bats because I was trying to create depth of field with an iPhone 5 every day taking food photos. So like, if you want to learn photography, try taking photos of melting banana ice cream on a hot California day.
Yeah.
So when I switched over, I tried a friend's 5D Mark II. That was in February 2015. And I photographed a mocha smoothie with his camera. And it was like this whole mind-blowing world opened up to me. And so I went out, I think a week or two later, and got my first camera, and I was shooting every single day with it. I had one lens. I had a 100mm macro lens, which is not, I still have it. I can't get rid of it for like sentimental reasons.
Yeah.
But I was shooting every single day. I was taking pictures of food. So it was available to me. I had my subject. It was fickle and difficult sometimes, and I was learning different lighting situations. I was learning the difference between RAW and JPEG. I was learning how to color correct. So all these things that I didn't know I was actually teaching myself, sort of in the trenches, I was able to learn really quickly. And because I was putting in those 10,000 hours, by the time I shot my first couple January 2016. That was the first time I shot two people in one lens. And luckily, at that point, I felt like I had already learned so many of the technical mistakes that photographers make, not even shooting people, that it just sort of allowed me to already know some of the basics of photography so that I wasn't trying to troubleshoot while I was shooting couples.
Yeah. What was is it just trial and error, or did you study online? Did you go and study anywhere or with people, workshops, anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I had a friend who was a photographer, and he was able to show me sort of like what he knew, but he was more of a hobby photographer. But if we hung out on weekends, we were watching YouTube videos on photography. Sometimes it was architectural photography. I mean, I sound like such a nerd right now. And sometimes it was Creative Lives that we would pay money for, and we would watch Creative Lives on food photography or anything I could get my hands on at that point, I wanted to learn. I didn't know that I wanted to learn it to be a photographer, though, because at the time I was still trying to do health coaching, and I was still trying to have this presence with my food blog and with my social media account. So everything I was doing was really to be serving what I thought was my goal of being a health coach. And what happened was I wasn't making any money as a health coach, and I didn't want to sell out and just do sponsored ads on social media. But I did have companies contacting me to take photos for their brand. And that was when I realized, oh, I can actually get paid for taking pictures. And so when that happened, it sort of changed. Suddenly it was like, oh, well, I'm not just learning photography so that I can serve myself. I'm now learning photography so I can serve other people. And this is a way that I could actually make money.
Yeah. And what was the progression into weddings?
Progression into weddings. So if 2015, I was shooting food, and then I also started shooting some headshots because I joke that if you live in LA and you spit out a window, you're going to land on two actors that need headshots. So I started that sort of side business as my hustle, so that I could also keep like paying for my gear that I wanted to start acquiring. And then I think it was, oh my gosh, okay, so December of 2015, I was on Creative Live, and I paid for a Jasmine Star $250 marketing plan because it was the cheapest wedding-related Creative Live I could get. It was like $29, and then it was like they were having a half off sale or something. So I was like, okay, for $10, I can see what this is about. And I watched that Creative Live, and I thought, okay, I'm going to try this. So January 2016, I took my $250 budget that I was giving myself and I found a couple. It was a friend of mine and her boyfriend, and she had her great grandmother's wedding dress. And I spent my whole $250 on renting an Airbnb that they wouldn't let me stay the night. They said I could have it for 1 hour to shoot. So, and I think I bought her like, I put together like a $10 bouquet on my own, and the bouquet shop was like, oh, we'll give you a discount because your story's cute. And so we went up to this location in Topanga and we did the shoot, and I got the photos back, and I was so in love with having people in my frame that were connecting and interacting. And I think I got lucky because the couple was so in love and they were really into it. And so that made it really fun for me.
Yeah.
And after that, I remember I went to the knot.com, and I started just like cold emailing every photographer on their front page list, introducing myself, showing them, because at that point I had like a very basic website with, I think, my food photography and some of my headshot work, just to show like I know what I'm doing more or less. And I started emailing every photographer and just seeing, I call it throwing shit at the wall. So I did my shit throwing. And
what were you asking them?
I was asking if I could work for them. I said, hey, I'd love to assist you. I'd love to second shoot. Yeah. I mean, I wasn't even really necessarily looking to second shoot at that point because I didn't have a ton of experience. But I knew that I would take any opportunity I could get, right? So I had a couple of people respond, I think, probably like 3 or 4. And then of that 3 or 4, I had 2 people agree to let me shoot with them. And then I also had a friend who I'd worked with as a producer when I was doing my food photography stuff, and she connected me with a photographer who let me second shoot for him. I met a guy on Tinder that was a photographer, and he and I started spending time together, and I asked him if I could second shoot for him, and it turns out he was just here visiting and had no weddings. Right. But we ended up getting together. That was probably like March of 2016. And I ended up flying back to Toronto where he lived, and he let me second shoot for him. I mean, it was anywhere I could get it. I wanted to learn as much as I could. And I wasn't afraid, just like I'm not afraid to assist someone. I'm not afraid to bring them water and carry their gear and anticipate what lens they need next. Because sometimes I really believe the reason that I grew so fast was because I did so much second shooting that year. I mean, 2016, I must have second shot 30 weddings, or as an associate, because eventually I got to a point where there was one company here in LA that let me shoot as one of their lead associate photographers. Okay. So, I mean, I probably did 30 weddings that year, although only 3 of them were my own.
Where you were the primary?
Yes.
Oh,
okay. 3 of them were my clients. One of them was a friend who was getting married and had just like 20 people on Catalina Island. And then one was another family friend's kids who I shot their engagement session for $100 because at the time I just was like willing to shoot anyone and get paid. It was the best thing ever. Mm-hmm. They ended up giving me $150. They tipped me $50 because it was so great. And I still have that as one of my main photos, their shoot. That was my first engagement shoot, and it's one of the main photos, main engagement photos on my website.
Okay. Is that which one is that?
I think if you click into engagements, it's they're standing under the pier and there's a big splash of water behind them. Okay. And it's golden hour. And that was, I think I used an 85 millimeter. It was a Canon 6D. I didn't even have a 5D at the time. And that was my first engagement shoot. And again, I got lucky. The couple had just gotten engaged, so they were super in love. The light was great. And it was really cool that we were able to get that. And I still love that. And I still have couples ask me about that photo.
Yeah.
To recreate it more or less. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Okay. And so did you say you're still happy second shooting and assisting and?
Oh yeah. I mean, I haven't been able to do it this year. This is the first year I haven't been able to second shoot a wedding, but it wasn't because of choice. I mean, I would love to. It's just this has been my busiest wedding season. And so every time I've had a weekend off, because I am a single parent, I
Yeah.
either have something planned with my daughter or nobody that, nobody's around to ask me to second shoot because they're like, oh, I'm busy, or I'm not busy. I don't have a wedding. So
Yeah. Yeah. So, 2016, you started second shooting. 2017, you started as your first sort of full season.
yeah.
Yeah.
So November 2016 is when I took Erica and Lanny two man's workshop
Yeah.
uh, in Canmore in their hometown. So at that point, I had only shot two weddings on my own. Yeah, I'd only shot two weddings when I took their workshop. And I know,
How
looking
was that
back,
experience?
it was a little overwhelming, but I also think it was somewhat beneficial being so new because I didn't have any bad habits.
Yeah.
I was so fresh at that point that I was able to absorb so much of what they were saying in a way differently than if I was trying to break my old routines.
Yeah.
So I thought that was really helpful. And
Yeah.
then January that no, and then so later that month was when I first started advertising on the Knot because I knew I needed something to be marketing myself. So that was a huge leap of faith. I invested a lot of money to have that online presence and see if I was able to bring in clients. And it was actually a really great decision for me because in the LA market, there's a lot of couples that use the Knot to look for their wedding vendors, especially people that are coming to California from out of state, which was also what I was hoping to attract was sort of those destination couples
Yeah.
that were coming from Chicago or, somewhere out of state, even like Seattle, but
Yeah.
was having their wedding in California and didn't know who to hire because they didn't live here and have friends that they could ask and that sort of
Why
thing.
were you looking for those couples?
Because a lot of couples that already lived here would ask their friends, well, who did you use?
Oh, okay. Yeah, sure.
So they were using word of mouth referrals.
Yes.
So a
Yeah.
lot of the couples that I was attracting in for 2017 that I was booking were people that were coming in from out of state. I think I even had a couple, she's from Australia and he was he was living in Canada, but he was from California. But
Okay.
they got married here in California. That was actually this year. So I still attract some of those couples. And that's the cool thing about having that online presence is you're getting people that are looking for their vendors, not through word of mouth, but through an online marketing platform.
Yeah. And how has that progressed? So this year or next year, sort of, is there are you still
It's
getting
been,
that type of client or?
I've booked the same amount through the Knot platform. I believe more or less. I think it's been like 15 weddings, both last year and this year.
Yeah.
So I think that's part of the reason that they asked me to be an ambassador.
Yeah.
Partly because I've had a lot of success and I've put in a lot of work too. I'm constantly updating my portfolio on the website and making sure that like my little bio is updated and approachable. And the only difference between last year and this year is that I've increased my pricing and I'm still booking the same amount of weddings through their platform. And then the other reason I think they made me an ambassador is because I booked a celebrity wedding and they found me on the Knot. So they
Okay.
contacted me via my website, but they found me on the Knot and that was the referral base. So I look at it as, you don't think of celebrity couples as looking online for their wedding photographer,
Yeah.
but it was a pretty cool experience.
So it's
And
already
it
happened,
showed
that
that,
wedding?
yeah, it already happened. It was
Yeah.
John Stamos and Caitlin.
Oh, right. Okay. They found you on the Knot.
They found me on the Knot.
Wow.
Yeah. It just goes to show that it's really important to get back to your couples very quickly because they booked me, I think 3 weeks before their wedding. They were going to do a big wedding. She was pregnant and they decided to do it really fast. And so she sent me an email and I just didn't recognize her name or anything like that. And I called them back that day. No, I emailed her back that day. She set up a phone call for later that day. So the
Yeah.
whole thing happened within one day.
Really quickly.
And then
Wow.
they got back to me and let me know that they wanted to book and all that. But it just goes to show, like, I don't know how many people she reached out to, but I was probably the first one to get back to her.
Yeah. Yeah. The industry recognition that you have achieved so far, do you think that's helped your business?
I don't think it's hurt. I mean, it was January 2017 17, I had a shoot that I did that I thought of and had this big idea and was like, okay, this could be really cool. And it was, I did a La La Land inspired engagement shoot.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
And the movie was just such a big deal at the time, and it had been nominated for Best Picture. And I remember sitting at the table and one day saying, hey, I should do a La La Land shoot. I loved the movie. We live in LA. And I'm like, I bet somebody's already done it. And I go online and I'm Googling, and sure enough, nobody had done it.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, got this. And I was thinking about the couples whose weddings I was doing. And I reached out to one of my couples that had already asked me to shoot at Griffith Observatory. I said, hey, you guys kind of remind me of the couple. I don't know if you loved the movie. They were like, we loved the movie. We love Griffith Observatory. We totally identify with this. And they kind of look like them. So it just worked out really well. And then we did the shoot. On the way to the shoot, my car broke down. And luckily, I had a second shooter with me who stayed with my car, and I was able to get into an Uber and make it to the shoot. But we were trying to shoot the whole thing, including the night shots, in one day. But because of the whole delay from my car breaking down, we decided to do the nighttime portion of the shoot on a separate day.
Yeah.
So we did the Griffith Observatory that day, and then we tried to get to the location where the movie poster was shot. And because it's fire roads, we would have had to carry all of our equipment up like 2 miles uphill. And we just said, that's not going to work, So we found an alternate location and did the second part of the shoot, I think like a week later.
Yeah.
And then it was Sunday night, the Sunday night before the Academy Awards. I sent an email. I just Googled how to email Huffington Post, found a generic email to Huffington Post weddings, and I emailed, hello, Huffington Post. Here's a couple of photos of the shoot that I did. Everybody's obsessed with La La Land right now, and I thought you might be interested in seeing more. And again, it's that throwing shit at the wall.
Yeah. And
I just threw it out there. I thought, most likely I'll never hear anything back, but I don't even have to tell anyone that I did it.
Yeah.
And the following morning, she contacted me and said, we want to run the story today. If you can give us these answers, we would love to do it. We'd love to see more. So I sent them the gallery. They picked the images they wanted. I reached out to the couple. We got them to, say some things about the shoot. I told them about the shoot myself. And then they published a story, and then everybody else published a story. It was on Good Morning America. I mean, it was,
wow.
Yeah, it was actually, I still have a newspaper. It took like a third of a big newspaper page of, oh man, I'm going to look so dumb right now. It's the Guardian, I believe. It's the New York Times of England.
Telegraph?
The Telegraph.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I said the Guardian. The Telegraph, yes.
Yeah.
So it ended up, there's a huge print on the Telegraph of their photo. So my couple loved me because they had 15 minutes of fame. And it gave me a lot of street credit, I think, like with other couples that felt like they were, that they didn't know me. And so I feel like there's that, the whole like, know, and trust factor, that when you can show that you have been published, that people will automatically look at you as more of an authority, because you have those sort of stamps on your site.
Yeah.
To show that, my work is being validated from outside publications.
Yes. Yeah. Can you speak a bit more about that like, know, and trust that you just mentioned?
Oh, yeah. So like, know, and trust is basically people want to give money to people that they like, people that they know, and people that they trust. So if I'm trying to attract a client that isn't finding me from a referral, because that's one of the immediate ways that you feel like you trust someone is your friend tells you, hey, that's who I used. I love them. They're great, whether it's for the dentist or a new pediatrician or, whatever. I have to create an online presence that's going to make people feel that way strong enough that they'll then reach out to me. And then in my communication with them, I have to try and build that rather quickly, so that by the time, we're done with our first initial meeting, they feel like they trust me enough to give me thousands of dollars to document what they view as the most important day of their life.
Yes. Okay. Is that something you have come up with yourself, or sort of come through workshops?
No. Like, know, and trust is something I think I learned when I was studying eating psychology. So I got certified through the Institute for the Psychology of Eating while I was
Okay.
studying to be a health coach.
Okay.
And I think that was where they were teaching us that in the coaching business, it's the same sort in any business where you're trying to sell your services.
Mm.
It's those same basic concepts. So one of the big ways that I do it is I make sure that any couple that contacts me, I immediately email back. I send them slideshows. I send them my pricing because that's what they want to see. And at that point, they've already reached out to me. So I'm not going to make them wait for that any longer.
Mm.
And I suggest that we set up a time to Skype or meet. I will not do a phone call with my couples because I think that well, two things. One is I tried doing phone calls and I wasn't booking those weddings. And that to me alone was an indicator that it wasn't a successful marketing tactic or booking tactic.
Yeah.
And then the other thing I did was I felt that by instantly seeing their faces right off the bat before even chatting, you're going to be building that connection stronger than if there's 3 other photographers that they are talking to on the phone. So they're going to automatically feel like they trust you more because they either see your face in person. And then the other thing I do is one of my secrets. It's a big secret. So I don't meet couples at coffee shops. I think it's a really bad idea for so many reasons. And so I had one really horrible experience where I was meeting. Another bad thing that I did was I met with a mother and a daughter. So instead of the couple, and we were trying to meet on Main Street in Santa Monica at this coffee shop. And of course there was, the whole 3 indoor seats were all taken. So we were going to sit outside, but it was cold because it does get chilly by the beach at night.
Yeah. And
the heaters were broken. So then we decided to walk down to another coffee shop that was like a block away, and that one was closed for renovations. So then we ended up at the burger joint down another block, and we all sat down. None of us were hungry, and so it became this really awkward situation, and instantly they're going to feel like they can't trust me, right?
Yes, yeah.
That was the last time I ever met a couple at a coffee shop. I said I'm never doing, or a mother-daughter, a mother-daughter.
Anyway,
last time I've ever done either. So good lessons were learned there. So I actually meet my couples at a hotel lobby. I found a hotel lobby that is a mile away from my house. It's a 4.5 or 5-star hotel. So instantly it's presenting this luxurious setting. But because it's by the beach and because I found this hotel that has this sort of more relaxed vibe, I can tell them that it's actually a hotel that reflects my brand. So first thing I say when I meet them is, because they'll usually say, oh, I've never been here. This place is so great. And I'm like, yeah, isn't it awesome? I know there's so many couches inside so we have lots of places to choose where we want to sit. And I feel like it's comfortable luxury, which I just feel like really reflects me and my brand. So I've instantly established that we have a comfortable place to sit, that my brand is going to be luxury, but comfortable and approachable and friendly and warm but still 5-star service. And that's what I want them to feel. And then there's this other whole idea that I mean, this is me totally shooting in the dark because I'm not a psychologist or a professional in any way, but they can do public parking, which is nearby, or they can pay for valet. If they pay for valet, they can get it, validated, and it's like $9. It's not free, but it's not ridiculous. But they're already investing in me financially. If that's the choice they're making, and they're taking the time to come to me at the spot where I hold meetings. So it's kind of like they go visit the caterer, they go visit the venue, they have a place where they feel they can meet their photographer. I'm not in a place where I want to spend California, Los Angeles rent on a studio at this point. Yeah. So it's free for me. And at the same time, I'm already presenting to my couples an experience that they're going to feel like this is what I can establish with them and this is what they can expect from me.
Have you had any feedback from couples that they enjoyed that initial experience meeting you?
No, but now that you put that out there, I'm definitely going to ask them. I guess the feedback would be that they book me. So I've done those meetings, the couples that I've met at the hotel, I've only lost one couple that hasn't booked me. Okay. One out of all the couples that I've met there. Yeah. So it definitely, I think, well, I think also if they're taking the time to meet you, they're already very interested in booking with you to begin with. But I do think that there's some psychology behind making that time investment, making the investment to see you face to face and really getting to know how you represent yourself as your brand.
Yes. Yeah. You mentioned when they first email you that you send back a slideshow or slideshows and price list. How much of a sort of ongoing correspondence is there before you actually meet them?
I try and keep it as little as possible because I don't want us to discuss too much via email, because I really want our conversations to be in person, face to face, as face to face as possible. Obviously, if they're out of state, then we do a Skype. But for me, it's tell me the question. You want to know how much correspondence? Yeah. So I send them the slideshow because I don't have really a blog. I have featured shoots on my website, but I don't have like a formal blog where they can dig and dig and dig. And that's for a couple of reasons. One, because I don't want them to dig and dig and dig. And two, if I get any hints or indications based on the intake form that I have, where is the venue? Is it your reception and your venue at the same place? Tell me about yourself as a couple, or what drew you to my work. So if I know, for example, that it's an Indian wedding, then I'm going to send them an Indian slideshow. If I know that they're getting married in Malibu at a private residence, I'm going to send them my slideshow from a wedding I shot at a Malibu private residence, right? And it's also like a lot of couples think that they want to book someone who's shot their venue. So if I haven't shot their venue, I can at least show them, hey, I didn't shoot the Jonathan Club, but I shot the Los Angeles Athletic Club or the California Club, which has the exact same kind of energy as your day is going to have. Yeah. And it gives them, I think it gives them a good sense of here's where you can explore further in a more curated way. Yeah. So instead of it just being a free-for-all on my website, I think I have a lot of photos for them to see, but then I want to curate an experience for them before they book me. And the other thing that I give every one of my couples, so I did a best of, am I going so fast? I feel like I'm going so fast.
No, it's good.
Okay, good. I feel like I'm like, blah, 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 blah. So everyone was doing a best of slideshow, right? Yeah. At the end of the year. And they always do all of their like epic photos, and why not, right? Because you're doing your best of. Yeah. So I decided to do my best of slideshow a little differently, and I did best of moments. So I went through all my weddings from 2017, and I picked, 3 or 4 of my favorite candid moment shots, or favorite romantic moment shots, or favorite moment at sunset, or whatever. But I didn't try and make it, here's the photos I want to use to impress other photographers, or here's the photos I want to use because I want them to see how badass I am. I was like, no, I want them to feel something when they watch this.
Yes. Yeah.
And so I picked a very like coming of age kind of sounding song, and I made sure it's like 80% black and white, because a lot of those moments end up being black and white. But every single one of my couples, that's the first slideshow that I send them. So I usually send like 3. So the first one is my best moments of 2017, because I want that to be the first thing they see, because I want them to already be considering me from an emotionally charged place.
Yes. Yeah.
And if that slideshow can get them to an emotional place, then they can also see, wow, we've already looked at a lot of her like big epic images on her website, but look at how she's making us feel when we watch this.
Yeah.
So that's another secret. Now I've gotten 2 secrets.
I think we need to keep talking secrets. This is quite quite interesting.
Well, and I don't know if people are doing it. I mean, the other thing I do with the slideshows, if we're going to keep going with secrets, is I include the slideshows as something free to my couples. It's not something that's listed on my packages, because I really want to be able to, once again, curate that experience for them. They get a highlights folder a couple days after they get the slideshow. So, and the highlights folder is going to have like 100 photos in it, right? That sort of tells the story of the day. But in the slideshow, I'm not necessarily making it, yes, I'm giving it to the couple and it's for the couple, but it's like the director's cut. And the reason why I want it to be that way is because it's not just for my current couples, it's for my future couples.
Yes.
Okay. And what I want my future couples to see. So you're not going to find a lot of detail shots, right? Because that's not the kind of couple I want to attract. Yes. You're not going to find any formal family photos, or rarely will I even include a formal bridal party photo, right? Because again, those are the photos that I consider responsibilities, but that's not what I want to consider. I don't want my future couples seeing that necessarily. And I want it to really be limited to my director's cut choices of images that I can use as a selling point for future couples. And if I'm just making my slideshow for my current couple, then I probably would be including more of those bridal party photos or family photos or things like that.
Yes. Okay. Okay.
And because they're getting them as part of the highlights folder within a couple days, they're still getting those photos. It's not like they're not getting them at the same time as the slideshow.
Yeah.
But I want them to really fall in love with the photos I want them to fall in love with. And I really want my slideshows to reflect the brand of and the future client that I want.
Yeah, curating your brand through imagery. You just said something before about the not showing detail shots because they're not the sort of couples that you want to attract. And you just said it then again about sort of going in a direction with your brand. So, I mean, what is it? Who are you looking for? What sort of clients are you heading towards, ideally?
Well, ideally, my couples will say to me, we don't give a crap about detail photos. We want people. Focus on the people.
Yeah.
And the example that I like to give to my couples when I'm meeting with them is that, yes, I came from food photography. Like, I can shoot the crap out of details. I spent my whole first year as a photographer, as a second or third shooter, shooting details. I mean, my macro was my best friend, my whole, all of 2015, that was all I had. So I reassure them that, detail shots are what I consider part of the responsibilities of the day, but that instead of photographing your shoes hanging from a chandelier, which is something I've never seen a bride naturally hang shoes off of a chandelier, that I'd rather shoot her grandmother's withered hands as she's handing the shoes to her granddaughter that she's going to put on for her wedding. And the juxtaposition of the grandmother's hand with these crystal encased, jeweled shoes, that's the photo I want them to have.
Yeah.
Instead of shooting another flat lay photo of your invitation suite for a half an hour while you're playing a hand clapping game with your niece or godchild, that's what I want to be photographing. Those are the things that I want to make sure that I'm capturing.
Yeah.
And if all of my clients are the bride that are like, hey, I want all my bridesmaids, hangers that have been embroidered with their names and I want them in alphabetical order shot with all the dresses on them, then I'm sacrificing those moments. And having a daughter myself and having her look through my wedding album and being able to see what this next generation values when they look at your wedding photos, it's completely shaped what's important to me. So she doesn't give a crap about the photo of my veil with, my jewelry on it, but she does. Her favorite photo from my wedding, and her dad and I aren't together anymore, so it's even more powerful, those photos to her.
Yes. Yeah.
We released butterflies during the ceremony.
Yeah.
And there's this photo where the butterfly flew out and landed on my grandmother, which is her great grandmother. And my grandmother was terrified, but also we were all laughing and it was so fun. And we didn't know what these butterflies were going to do. And they were landing on, the guests in my clothes. And those are the photos that make her little giggle come out and that she wants to hear the story behind.
Yeah.
So I try and focus on my goal is to have, all of my clients be like that. The ones that want to value the photos that they have, not for necessarily the things, but for the stories. So
do you think that may, and this is not a criticism, this is a sort of curiosity, do you think that may limit your the financial success of your business? Because I just feel like a lot of clients that are at the higher end of weddings are going to be looking for everything you just said you don't want to shoot. Yeah,
well, so like I said, responsibilities. So I do shoot them. I mean, they are going to get detail shots. Their centerpieces will be photographed. I mean, I booked my first over $10,000 wedding this November, and we're bringing in one photographer for 8 hours just to be shooting details. So for the clients that it's really important to, I make sure that those things are covered.
Yeah.
But and I always want to ensure that they feel well cared for. I can't tell you how many times I say that to people. I want to ensure that everyone is well cared for, especially my couple.
Yeah.
Because if they feel cared for and taken care of, then they're going to pay you what they need to pay you, right? So I don't think it's necessarily limiting also because I'm a huge believer of this that the funnel effect. So it's the same thing. Like when I had a food blog and I was doing my food photography, my social media was a vegan, gluten-free food account.
Yeah.
Now I am not gluten-free. I'm not a vegan. I've been vegan. And I was open about the fact that I wasn't gluten-free or vegan, but I was eating a mostly plant-based diet. And I decided that I wanted to narrow to widen. So by narrowing my market of I want to attract vegan, gluten-free people or people who are interested in that lifestyle and that way of eating or having a more plant-based diet, I then widened my fan base. And I really believe it's the same thing in this industry, that by having a more narrowed funnel of clients that fit your brand, you're actually widening the amount of clients that are going to want you. That if you try and come across as this, I'll do anything, I'll be what you want me to be, I'll do whatever you want me to do, you're too broad. And I think that and when you find those clients who align with your brand of, I don't want detail shots. I want someone who's going to take the most kick-ass moment shots, but then also get these really beautiful romantic portraits because we live in California and sunset's going to be so gorgeous and la, la, la. They're going to be like, oh my God, we found her. This is her. Yeah. And we want someone that feels relatable and warm and all blah, blah. And then they come across me and they're like, oh my God, this is exactly what we want. So they're going to be willing to pay, hopefully, right? In an ideal world, they're going to pay for that.
Yeah.
And they're going to be able to find it in their budget if they can't, because then they feel like they need you because they found the one. They found that person they wanted that fit and checked all those boxes that they needed checked.
Yeah, yeah. Marlies, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's actually getting quite dark in your room there.
Is it?
Yeah. Is there any chance you pop a light on?
Let me go pop a light on. I covered my own face so I wouldn't feel self-conscious, so I couldn't see. Hold on.
Okay. Much better. Yep, that's great.
Is that better?
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
I know it's like morning there for you, right?
Yeah, midday. All right. Now, I wanted to ask, there's a lot of natural light wedding photographers out there. And but you tend to use off-camera flash quite a lot, and I'm curious about how you got into that.
Well, a couple reasons. One, like I said, I took Erica and Lanny's 2-man workshop. It was called the Balls Out workshop at the time. Now I think it's called Metanoia. I don't even know how to pronounce it, but it's that Greek word.
Yeah.
And before that, I had never used off-camera flash, and I actually was very adamant about being a natural light photographer when I started, right? Because it's what the cool kids were doing. We live in California. We have the most beautiful natural light here. I think of, probably one of the most beautiful places for natural light in the world.
Yeah.
And it was something that when I learned it at the workshop, I really wasn't sure how much I was going to incorporate it into my work. And I wasn't really incorporating it into my weddings. I think I might have tried it like here or there, and it wasn't gelling for me. Oh my God, no pun intended. But then I decided to start bringing off-camera flash to some of my headshot sessions. So the other thing I do is I still shoot headshots during the week. I think it's a great way to just keep a camera in your hand as much as possible. And it was a really great slow-paced opportunity for me to try out off-camera flash. Yeah. And it was one of those things that I'm like, if it doesn't work, nobody has to see it. Nobody has to know. I don't even have my second shooter asking me questions. It's just me and this upcoming aspiring actor. Yeah. And there's one session in particular where I set up the off-camera flash. I started with the flash off, which was one of the best tips to me that so many people don't think of when they're starting in off-camera flash and off-camera lighting. And got my settings right and then turned on the flash, and I was like, oh my God, this is amazing.
Yeah.
And it was the first time, even though I had learned all the technical stuff at the workshop, it was the first time that it clicked with me.
Yeah.
And that was when I started using it more and more at my headshot sessions, which then gave me the confidence to start bringing it into my weddings. And then when I was I shot a wedding with Erica and Lanny last August. They invited me to come assist them. So I was able to watch them for a day and see sort of how they used it. And then long story short, Lanny Mann ended up second shooting for me at my wedding the following weekend because we had a problem with customs with my second shooter.
Oh, okay.
And so I think having had that experience 2 weeks in a row of working with them and shooting with them and watching them and having, Lanny there with me, and having him really even just help me, especially at receptions, at the reception that night, it was like, after that, it was like, I got it. And it really was that strong of a moment of like within like a probably 3 to 4 week period of I'm not comfortable using off camera flash to like, this is no problem. And I'm still like, there's always going to be like, you're not going to get your settings right every time. When you're dealing with off camera flash, there's going to be a little bit of seasoning. I think I've heard people say like, you got to add the salt and pepper like a chef. Where I thought that you had to nail it right away or it wasn't going to work or I would get flustered. And now it's like, okay, you just stay relaxed about it. You try it out if it works. So for me, I still primarily use natural light. I love it. But it's a tool that I have, and it's a tool that helps me stand out in this hugely saturated market in Los Angeles.
This is going to be my next question. Do you think it helps you stand out?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think that, I really wanted to get into this business to make money. I joke that, some people are like, I love and all. Yeah, and it's for me, I wanted a job that would allow me to take care of myself and my daughter and still be able to pick her up from school during the week. Like that was my goal. I didn't want to end up doing something that had me working, 2 jobs or late into the evening or whatever it was that was going to keep me from seeing her and being there for her.
Yeah.
But I also knew that I wanted to make money. So in trying to make money, I knew that I had to treat this like a PhD, which is why I invested money in workshops. I went to conferences, having only shot a few weddings at that point. I mean, I did Erica and Lanny's workshop, and then I did Gabe's one-day workshop.
Yep.
Then I did Mystic Seminars, and then I did WPPI, and I had shot 3 weddings at the time. And so, and then that year I was shooting, right? And then I even did I did Erica's women's photography conference that November. So I'm a big believer. And I mean, I've since seen Davina and Daniel's Creative Live. I've gotten Tyler Workin's Creative Live, Roberta Valenzuela. Like I'm constantly educating myself because I really believe that to make money, you have to have more skills.
Yeah.
And not just technical skills, but marketing skills, business skills, people skills, so that you have something that you can offer your clients that make you more valuable.
Yes, that's what I was going to ask next. The what's been the balance of these workshops or any tuition you've done between sort of technical, artistic photography and business?
It's a good question. So, I mean, if you go to conferences like Mystic and WPPI, they definitely have a good balance, and they had speakers kind of talking on, I mean, WPPI is so broad that you can kind of choose where you want to go. And I definitely was leaning more towards learning the art of photography. Business has been something I've luckily had come more easily to me than I thought. When I first moved to California at the time it was my husband, we started his business here.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize how much I was learning about business without knowing that I was learning about business just by going through, as his wife,
yeah,
and helping him with the things that you need to set up a business. And so when I started this business, I thought I was starting at zero. And looking back and reflecting on it, I probably had a little more business knowledge than I gave myself credit for.
Yeah.
But I mean, the Erica and Lanny's workshop definitely is a good balance. What was great about Gabe's one-day workshop is he sort of opened the floor to let us ask him whatever it was that we wanted to ask him. So His was more creative and artistic and about the photography than about the business, but he definitely talked about that too. And then yeah, I mean, I'd say I've gotten a balance. I haven't done, even with Creative Lives that I've watched, more of them tend to be more about the photography, but they always seem to talk about business because your skills mean nothing if you can't sell them.
Yeah, yeah. What do you think have been sort of the two or three most important things for your business?
Two or three most important things for my business. Uh, as far as building it, I'm just going to probe you a little further.
Yeah, like in terms of in building it or reaching where you are now, in terms of the number of clients
Well,
you've got.
yeah, I mean, I think that second shooting is so important. I really, really do. Because you're also not limited to doing the safe shots.
Yeah,
And I think that anytime you're feeling stuck, that one of the best things you can do to get unstuck is to second shoot, or even just assist.
yeah,
I can't tell you how much it helped watching Erica and Lanny for a whole day at a wedding and, being there with them and helping them, but at the same time, shadowing and really just, and it doesn't matter if even if you're watching someone, I mean, I was second shooting or third shooting or assisting and going, God, that's what I don't want to do. So even if you're not learning what you do want, you're learning what you don't want. And I think that can be just as important. So I think that's really important. I think having a good plan in place for how you want to communicate with your couples, responding to them quickly, which I can't tell you how many times these couples have said to me, "Oh my God, thank you so much for getting back to me so fast."
yeah,
I've talked to other photographers that think they have to wait because it'll make them look cooler if they wait to respond back to their couples. But I mean, I've gone so far as been on a shuttle from a ceremony to a reception and been responding to an inquiry I got that day saying, "Hey, I can't respond to you and send you my pricing right now. I'm actually about to go shoot a reception, but I wanted to let you know I got your email and I'm going to get back to you tomorrow."
yeah,
That's, to me, it took me 2 minutes on a bus riding back. Nothing was happening, right? I wasn't missing anything happening with the wedding that I was shooting at that moment. And I was able to tell a couple, "Hey, you're important to me. And I can't get back to you fully right now, but I hear you." And I think in this industry, so many, these are brides. They're so excited. They're planning their wedding. This is something that a lot of people have been thinking about for a long time. Or if they're not thinking about it for a long time, they're putting out a crap load of money.
yeah,
And for them, like that, I want them to know that I value that. And I value the fact that they took the time to go to my website, look at my work, and reach out to me. So that's two. So second shooting and assisting, I think, is important. Client communication is important. And then knowing your limits and finding balance. So
What do you mean?
that's so for me last year, I was still doing a lot of headshots and a lot of like lifestyle branding shoots, because there's also a lot of bloggers and such out here on top of all the weddings I was doing and on top of being a full-time single parent. And I didn't have balance and I definitely burnt out a little bit.
Okay.
I was trying to edit everything on my own, and I had this idea that I had to do everything myself. And so I made the commitment. It was November of last November. It was Thanksgiving weekend here in the States, and I found myself photoshopping a couch out of a bride's family photos on Thanksgiving weekend because I so desperately wanted to serve my couple, right? And then I had 6 weddings last September, 6 weddings in 1 month. And in my head, I was going to be able to handle it and it would have been fine. And, I was telling myself I could make it and I couldn't. It was November. They still hadn't gotten their pictures back yet. I was photoshopping a couch and I had a total breakdown. And that was when I gave money to the image salon and I made the commitment to start using an outsourced editor to do the bulk. So I'm still editing between 100 to 150 photos from each wedding. And then I'm sending the bulk of the photos for my editor there to finish for me so that I could have my life back.
And how has that given you life back?
Well, I ended up shooting 8 extra weddings this year. So, so in one way,
Yeah.
I would love to say yes. I'm not necessarily in the business of saying no right now. I'm still seeing where my business is going and how it's growing and sort of what the future holds for me. But I mean, it's made it so that I've been able to do more traveling this year, and I definitely I have a bit more time. I mean, and it's also just, it's like cleaning your own closet versus cleaning your friend's closet. It's so much easier to go to your friend's house and clean out her closet because you're not as emotionally connected to all the items in the closet. Yeah. So by outsourcing the main bulk of your photos, they know what you want, but you're going to nitpick on each photo and spend more time trying to get it where your couple would never see that difference.
Yes.
If if you burn down that one highlight, it's there on the dance floor in their dance photos that they're going to look at and just skip right through.
Yeah.
So when you have someone that, is doing it for you, they're not going to nitpick over those things that will take you a lot more time. So I'm definitely sleeping a little more than I was last year.
Yeah. Do you outsource other things? Sort of like, do you have a CRM or SEO or website people or anything like that?
I don't. I've been really lucky as far as my SEO. I have a super basic Wix site that I designed myself. Yeah. And I try and just keep it updated so that my most current work is there and available for people to see. So I probably update it once a month. And then I found, this sounds so sexist. I hired a 19-year-old girl this summer. I told her that I was looking for a wife. So I basically said, I need someone that's going to help me make dinner. And, she got the joke. She's super feminist, blah, blah, blah. It was great. Yeah. But so I need someone to help me make dinner, help me pick up my daughter from camp. If I need you to just fold the load of laundry that's in the laundry machine, return the clothes to Target that we bought that don't fit, whatever it was, I needed someone to just help me with those things because I don't have a partner. I don't have another person in the house. It's not dual income and it's not dual responsibilities. And so that was a really hard decision for me to make because I was paying someone hourly to help me, but it enabled me to feel like a human again. And she went back to school. So I'm looking right now to replace her. But or I'm actually considering. So I'm trying to decide if I want to outsource some of my life or if I want to outsource some of my business. And I would love to get to a place where I have someone in-house. I mean, I can't really call it a studio manager, but that's more or less sort of what the title is, that can help me with everything from those emails to helping me update my website to doing some editing if I need them to do some editing and those sorts of things.
And folding the laundry, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Or like a doula. Well, so I bring an assistant to every wedding. That's another thing that's been really, really helpful for me. I do. Yeah. So they're I call them my wedding doula. Yeah. And they're there. My next year's couples, I finally started putting it on one of my collections because I'm bringing them all the time anyway. And it kind of helps them bump up to a higher package by seeing it. So I had a wedding where I ended up leaving 2 of my light stands with I had these like ball head shoes on top, and it was probably about, I don't know, $400 or $500 worth of stuff. And of course, the caterer said it was with the rental company. The rental company said it was with the venue. Everybody said it was with someone else. They never turned up, of course. And while it wasn't like I left a lens or something, that was thousands of dollars, it brought to my attention that if I were to even bring someone to a wedding just to keep myself from forgetting anything, I would already be paying for them that way. Yeah. Because the money that I spent in that loss, I wouldn't have left those things that day if I'd had a person there, with the sole responsibility of just making sure I don't forget anything. Yeah. Yeah. So I've been very lucky. I sort of ask the universe for things and it just kind of happens. So right around the time that happened, I had a girl reach out to me and say, hey, I just moved here. I love your work. I'd be interested in meeting up. And during the meeting, she expressed an interest in assisting me. And she helped me starting last, I'd say September. She was there at almost all of the weddings that I shot, September, October, November of last year. And then now I've had an assistant at every wedding so far this year for 2018.
And what do you get them to do usually?
So it's really great. Anytime I need to use off-camera flash, I can say, hey, grab the monopod, grab the flash. I need you to go, like we had a bride, she was about to get on a bus with her bridesmaids, and I saw this perfect opportunity of this grand sweeping staircase, and I knew that it would be a great off-camera flash portrait that I could kill the ambient light that was in the room, and there were these chandeliers and blah blah blah. So it literally took me 10 seconds to say, Morgan, can you grab the monopod? I don't even know if she needed the monopod because she was up the stairs. I said, grab the flash, grab the sphere, grab the gel. Can you go up there, and just turn it on because I can control the settings, da, da, da. Got the shot. She got on the bus. The planner wasn't mad at me. So that's something that if I had to explain it to a bridesmaid, it would have taken 18 times as long.
Yeah.
So that right there is her value. And then I always use off-camera flash now at the reception. So I'll have either my second shooter or my assistant holding the light for me, just based on, if I want my second shooter, you can also, or if I don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
And just to help me with gear and make sure I go to the bathroom and make sure I drink water. It's one of the best financial investments that I think I've made for my business, because I've seen, again, it's return on investment is something I'm really big into talking about. And I look at things like investing in the knot. Did I get a return on investment? Huge return on investment. Yeah. Having an assistant, has it elevated my work, which in turn allows me to raise my pricing? Yes, 100%. If having a personal assistant that's here / nanny helping me in my house so that I can be booking my clients, responding to them faster, serving them better, am I able to shoot one more wedding a year because I have someone helping me? It's all about, for me, like at the end of the year, I want my dollar to be higher than it was the year before.
Yeah. So. Yeah, of course. Have you steadily raised prices?
Yeah. So one of the things that I think a lot of newbies do is they don't come in strong enough financially. They start really low. And I think it's a problem that a lot of photographers aren't valuing their work and are coming at this sort of lower price point where your couples either they don't care who their photographer is. They just know they need a photographer. They're not hiring a photographer that they want and have to have. They're just hiring someone because they need them. Yeah. And so for me, having done so much work ahead of time, I think I booked my first wedding at $3,600, which in California is a pretty good price to be shooting a wedding. And that to me was really important, that I didn't price myself too low. And it was scary because I was worried that people weren't going to pay me that, but they did.
Yeah. And
it was partly because I had done the work and I had the portfolio and I could back it up and I was able to get them to trust me and all those things. But I also think that, I tell this story about my dad and when we used to have garage sales. So if something wasn't selling, instead of, my mom would let's say it was a toaster. Yeah. Let's say he was selling it for $3, a $3 toaster, right? And my mom would be like, it's not selling, make it $1. And if you mark it down to $1, nobody's going to buy a toaster because they're going to say a toaster for $1, it probably doesn't work. It's probably no good. It's probably, outdated, whatever. So my dad, instead of lowering the price, if something wasn't selling, he would raise the price. Mm-hmm. So that $5 toaster, $3 toaster, he would make $10. And sure enough, every time the toaster would sell.
Yeah.
And my dad would say, because a $10 toaster, it's probably a lightly used toaster that still works and is great. And so people will pay $10 because the perceived value of it is now higher. Yes. And so I looked at that tactic with my business and I wanted my perceived value to be higher, because if you get too low, then people are going to think either you're not trained enough or you don't have enough confidence in your own work, or for whatever reason, when they're looking to hire someone, it's just like if you're looking to buy a house, that if something's priced too low, you think there must be something wrong with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Where are you heading with your business? What's the future looking like, hopefully?
Yeah, that's a good question. I'm trying to figure it out. So from the very beginning, Nicholas, I did not have a real vision. So like I said, my vision was to take care of myself financially and take care of my daughter, London, and pick her up from school every day. So beyond that, I didn't really know where I was going. And I've grown a lot faster within the industry. Sometimes I deal with a lot of impostor syndrome because I don't necessarily think I deserve the recognition that I've gotten. I come from a creative background, so I know that this isn't like I just, hopped out of nowhere. I've always been in some sort of creative field. But I I never wanted to speak, for example. That was never something that I necessarily had in my future plan. I've done a lot of public speaking, but it wasn't necessarily how I saw my future heading.
Yes.
And I knew a lot of people that really wanted to speak at Mystic Conference, for example. So when they asked me to speak, it was a huge honor. And it's something that I don't take lightly or for granted, or even having, the opportunity to talk with you. I mean, I'm never too good for anything, but it's not like I've been asking for these things. And so all I really want to do is the best work I can. And whatever it is that I commit to, I want to make sure that I do the best work that I can in that thing. So whether that means I end up doing more speaking or more teaching, or any teaching, because I haven't done any real formal other than, talking to friends and helping out other new photographers that, by just telling them whatever I can, or, having an associate studio. I don't know. I mean, did I say that already? So either an associate studio or speaking at more conferences or running workshops. The only thing I can see that I would really like to have happen is I'd really like to do an all women's lighting workshop. I think a lot of women feel intimidated by any sort of off-camera lighting. And while I still think I'm learning myself, I once had a mentor tell me that to teach, you only have to be one step ahead of other people. And then you have something to offer them. Yeah. And especially among women photographers, I think that a lot of them either feel intimidated, or they think that if they're using off-camera lighting, that it has to be very dramatic, or that it doesn't somehow, give them anything that they can offer their couples, or they think they have to just shoot like these other photographers that they think they need to shoot like. Yeah. And so I'd really love to have that. And I think in an all-female environment, having done this women's photography conference, Real Life, which I'm going to again this year.
Is that Erica Mann?
It's Erica, yes. Yeah. It's Erica and Kalandra. And then well, I don't want to talk about the future of what's happening with Real Life, but there is stuff happening in the future that's exciting that I can't talk about. But but there's something very powerful about a group of women, and I've had very negative experiences with women growing up. I think all girls have had negative experiences with other women, and so having done this conference where it was such a warm and non-judgmental, open learning environment, I felt that was also very healing. And so I really would like to have that opportunity to create a more intimate environment of women interested in learning on how they can expand their lighting, even if it is natural lighting, because natural lighting is something else that I really think that I know well. I think that, just because you use the term natural light doesn't mean that it's just open shade. Right? Yeah. I mean, there's different ways that you can use natural light when you're shooting. That's not limited to that. Yeah. So I would love to have that happen at some point. It's just a matter of figuring out when, and then seeing if people would be interested, because I don't know if that's something that, I sometimes am still, who am I to tell people, or who's going to want to take my workshop, right? We have those.
Impostor syndrome. You need to work on that.
The imposter syndrome, for sure.
All right, Marlies, thank you so much for joining us today. Appreciate your time. If people,
you're very soothing.
Me?
Yes, you get people to open up. Yeah, you're good. You're like an Aussie male Oprah.
I am blushing, and I don't even know what to say to that. Thank you, I guess. If people want to follow you online, where can they find you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is m.hartphotography. Heart is spelled Hart. Or Facebook. If you just friend me on Facebook, that's a great way to stay connected. I'm really good at talking to people if they reach out to me, if they have questions. I try and get back to everybody, again, very quickly. Because I think that's important. And I was really lucky that I had great mentors listen to my questions and help me in the beginning. So I really love paying it forward in that way. Yep. Or my website is mhartphoto.com. Heart, again, is spelled Hart. I think those are all but Marlies Hartmann is with 2 N's, is my Facebook page.
Okay. All right, Marlies, thank you so much.
You. This was really, really awesome. I hope I told you everything you needed to know.
No, it was great. Thank you.